the pipe, I got my eyes on her like sniper. Gonna take your girl like swiper. You won't smoke, then get a lighter. I say, what the heck is you doing? I cannot say that other word. All my parents are shooting, my face be pulled. Hey, you don't have fans, yeah, you may be right, sis. Hit your girl like demolition derby.
Hello everybody, this is the movie of What If Deku Saved the Demon Queen. I do hope you guys enjoy this, and please hit the subscribe button down below in my actual second channel, because that's where I'll be uploading mainly from now on. My straight week of actually uploading What Ifs is now ended, and now I am back to my original upload schedule. Thank you all for watching, and good to see you. Bye. We are going to begin with our perspective of Izuku Midori when he is 4 years old in the playground. Kachan, what are you doing? Stop that! Izuku said, running over to him, as Izuku grabbed Bakugo's arm, as Bakugo just threw his arm back at Izuku. Don't you dare touch me, you quirkless nerd! Bakugo shouted. As Izuku fell into his behind, Izuku just said to Bakugo, Kachan, stop, you're hurting her, he said. Like I care. She's just one of those evil villainous quirk people. She'll grow up to be a big villain when she grows up, Bakugo said, pointing at the symbols on her head and her face. Kachan, stop, Izuku shouted at him, not getting Bakugo's attention. So you want to be coming in her place then, nerd? Get ready for a brutal beating, Bakugo said, as Izuku just jumped in front of her, trying to block Bakugo's explosion attack onto Izuku's scared, charged skin. Izuku managed to tank 2 or 3 of the explosions at Bakugo's max he could. As Izuku just managed to block them, Izuku's skin started to peel off and Izuku started to bleed. A lot more than what he should do for his age when he gets scratches or bruises or cuts. As Izuku's eyes started to tear up, with most of the people in that area ignoring it because, well, they know Izuku's quirkless, they're not going to do anything, are they? As Izuku managed to protect the girl as Bakugo lost interest, as Bakugo and his lackeys walked off through the night or day, as a girl with purplish, blonde, darkish hair came up to Izuku and said, Excuse me, are you okay? She said with a stuttering voice, as Izuku just looked up at her with gloomy eyes. He couldn't even speak for the amounts of suffering and pain he was in at that very moment. Izuku tried to lift his hand up as the girl just grabbed his hand automatically out of instinct of that, as Izuku and her both stayed there for 3 minutes until a walking passerby would have seen the green-haired boy on the ground, bloodied, bruised, and beaten to a pulp, as this woman would have actually walked up to him and said, Well, what the hell happened to you, kid? She said, as she would have just grabbed him and said, We're taking you to a hospital right goddamn now. Where you gonna take him? She said, as the woman who looked at the little girl, Did you do this? No, I didn't. The boy with blondish hair did, she said in an innocent tone. Well, we're gonna have to talk to his parents about that, shouldn't we? As the woman would have just grabbed Izuku over into a bridal-styled position and jumped all the way to the hospital at rapid pace. As the woman arrived at the hospital with a couple of the employees there seeing the battered and bruised little green-haired boy, as they would have all rushed to his side, as they would have just asked the white-haired woman asking her, what happened to the young boy. She said she found him bloody, beaten and bruised, as all the doctors would have just said, Get him into the bed now, we're going to have to make sure everything's fine with him to make sure there's no broken bruises, bones, I don't know why I said it like that. As the doctors would have just scanned Izuku's body for a broken leg, a broken arm and 2 broken ribs. The rest of the injuries were just scarred skin, as Izuku would have just stayed in the hospital with his mother being called, as Inko would have just picked up the phone asking what was wrong, because the hospital number randomly just called her. Of course she's going to be worried, as Inko would have been relayed the information that Izuku has been injured, as she would have just grabbed all her stuff and instantly ran out of the fucking room like supersonic speed, bro. Moment Inko arrived at the hospital, she instantly slammed her fist onto the desk demanding where her son was. The doctors just said he was on room 304 on the 3rd floor, As Inko paced there as fast as she could, she slammed open the sliding door to see a white-haired woman sitting there with her child. "You," she said, thinking she might have beat the shit out of her child. "You dare hurt my little boy and sit here?" As Izuku struggled to open his eyes to reveal it was a white-haired woman that had saved him. As Izuku fully opened them to see his mother's gaze, worried, tears in her eyes. As Inko instantly hugged her son, saying, "Izuku," she said, starting to cry, worried for her son. As Inko just hugged him almost to death, as Izuku just patted her on the shoulder, saying, "Mom, I can't breathe," Izuku said in a worried tone, as Inko just lightened her grip on her son and just started gently hugging him. As Izuku just looked over to the white-haired woman. "Hey, you're the person who saved me," Izuku said in a very tired tone. "Wait, she saved you? Oh, I'm so sorry for misconstruing it," Inko said, as Inko started bowing her head as fast as Sonic when he's trying to run. As Inko managed to actually but picked up on the shoulder, saying everything was fine. As Inko would have asked Izuku who did this to him, Izuku was stayed quiet and just bowed his head and just started to have little tears in his eyes. As this white-haired woman asked them, saying, "It was some kind of blonde boy to pair to the little girl's description." "Blonde boy, Katsuki," she said, growling her teeth together like she was an angry dog. "I would never think that person would ever do that to my little baby Izu," she said, getting more and more angry. But the moment she got hold of Izuku's arm or hand, she was very calm and quiet. As this woman would have just said, "Hey, I'm just going to quickly leave, okay? I don't want to keep on interrupting you guys," she said. As this Inko would have just said to her, "So what's your name?" "Oh, my name's Mirako, my hero name at least. Or you can just call me Rimuru," she said. She just walked off with her smiling. As we are going to cut to the next day with Izuku actually leaving the hospital. Izuku walked out the front doors of the hospital to be greeted by the same girl he saved from Bakugo's furious wrath. Since yesterday, Inko's been in contact with Mitsuki about what Bakugo has done, so Mitsuki's actually managed to actually put him in Raduru classes. Basically what that means is Bakugo's going to be a less angry, but he's going to be a little bit more, let's just say, level-headed, but not really. He's still going to be angry. As Izuku walked out to actually see the girl he saved, she went up to him with her parents as well. Her parents looked like her, but more lines on their faces and a cube, like a little diamond type of thing on top of their forehead. As Izuku and them both talked for a while, with her introducing herself as Erd. Let's just leave out the last name for now until I remember what it was. As Erd introduced herself as Erd, basically, as Izuku said, "That's such a good name," Izuku said while smiling, with a big 20 gigawatt smile that can literally melt anyone's heart. As the mother of the family just smirked and looked back at her husband. "Well, he would make good husband material for our little Erd, wouldn't he? He's so sweet," she said, as Erd in the back of her head saying, "Oh my god, what are my parents saying? What the hell?" she said. Her 5-year-old brain understood. As we're going to skip a couple of years where Izuku's in his last year of middle school. Since then, Izuku's been hanging around with Erd quite often. Izuku's been more or less hanging around with her as Izuku was told about her being the future demon queen. As Izuku was shocked for 5 minutes and then he finally came to. "That's so cool!" Izuku said, shouting. More or less, I don't know. As Izuku just had a big gleam in his eyes, thinking, "That's so cool." "So when you're going to be the demon queen," Izuku said. Whenever I get married," she said, playing with her fingers. "Do you want to become the demon queen?" Izuku said. Maybe not," she said, as Izuku just passed on her head saying, Well, if you don't or if you do, I'll still take care of you no matter what, okay? Izuku said with a smile. No matter what, if he was quirkless, she believed in him, so that was enough to make him push even further beyond for his training. We cut back to present day in the class of his third year students in middle school. Izuku and everyone else would have done the same things like canon, with the teacher throwing the papers up in the air. Of course you all want to be heroes. Why wouldn't you be? This is the best track to go down to actually be noticed and get big fame. Oh god, jokes fam. Everyone would have used their quirks except from 3 people in their class. One of them being a spiky Pomeranian, doing a flip onto his desk and shouting at everyone, saying that he was going to be the next #1 hero, even stronger than All Might himself, he said in a very cocky tone. Just remember, he's not so turned down, he's literally still cocky as fuck, as everyone else would have just stared at Bakugo with disgust and hatred towards him, thinking he's just called them all extras, D-listers, and all the above. As the teacher would have just said, "Oh, we have another 2 students who are going to UA. Izuku Midoriya and Rudu? Is that how you pronounce it, miss?" No, you pronounce it as Rudu. I'm just thinking because I can't remember how you pronounce it. She would have just told him the correct translation for her name, as the teacher would have just apologized and carried on. But before he got to Midoriya, the single sign of the word is literally getting Bakugo jumping on Izuku's desk, threatening him, tell him if he ever applies to UA, I will fucking kill you myself, Deku! Bakugo shouted at Izuku, but Izuku didn't back down, neither flinch. Not even a pint of literal sweat came off Izuku's puny forehead, but Bakugo thought it was, so Bakugo started to throw an explosion at Izuku's desk, with Izuku flipping Bakugo off his desk by pushing the desk from underneath him, making Bakugo hit his head, making him dazed into a distress. As Bakugo just fired an explosion at a random location, cause remember he's dazed, as Bakugo would have tried to throw an explosion at the teacher, as Izuku would have tried to stop it, but the demon queen to be actually stepped in and threw Bakugo across the room, knocking him unconscious with her electricity power. And I would say wintricity, it's basically just wind and electricity in one. She would have shocked Bakugo and make him hit his back, knocking him clean out of the fray. Everyone else was shocked. "No way! She just knocked out Bakugo!" they all said, as Midoriya just said, "Nice one, thank you very much. I wouldn't have got there in time," Izuku said, smiling, with Rudu actually blushing at the sight, going back into her chair, blushing like mad, as the teacher would have just told Midoriya and Rudu to take Bakugo to the actual nurse's office, as they were carrying him normally out of the actual door until they actually fully got out of the actual classroom. They just decided to grab Bakugo by the legs and just drag him like a little dead body, more or less, I would say, like a rag doll. As Midoriya and Rudu actually arrived at the nurse's office to be greeted with the nurse, she would have just said, "Why are you dragging Bakugo like a dead corpse?" As she would have just said, "He ain't dead, is he?" "Nah, he's just knocked out. We decided to drag him like this for no apparent reason. We just felt like it, honestly." They both said in unison, as Izuku and Rudu both lodged Bakugo into bed really uncomfortably, as they would have just left him there, as the nurse just decided to say, "You know what, fuck it, I'll just try and help him for now," but he's not getting anything else after that, as the day went on after that as normal, with everyone packing up their stuff and leaving for the day. As Izuku and Ria are both walking down in the alleyway, as the sludge villain was moving down into the actual ventilations of the actual sewer system, as Izuku and Ara actually both heard this, as they turned around to see a giant sludge beast coming out of the sewers. As even before Izuku can push his demon princess, basically, I can't remember her name off by heart now, it's been a while now, as Izuku pushed her out of the way, being surrounded again by the sludge villain. Being engulfed by it, Izuku could barely even breathe a slight bit of air. But before Izuku can do anything, he heard someone shout, "Ha ha ha! No worry, I am here!" A loud booming voice heard in the sound of the voiced streets, as Izuku was thrown back into a wall by All Might's mighty hammer Texas smash. The air pressure surrounded the alleyways, booming out loud, surrounding the sludge villain, making it dispersed across all of the walls, even onto some clothes, but only Izuku's at that time. As Ira came rushing over to Izuku, wondering if he was alright, as Izuku just nodded up and went up saying, "I'm okay, it's okay, thank you," Izuku said. "I didn't do anything, Izu. He did." She pointed over to All Might. "Hi there," as Izuku just said. "Oh wow, it's All Might," Izuku said, smiling, as Izuku rushed over to get All Might's autograph, but was stopped by her, hugging him really tightly. "I thought I lost you, you meanie," she said, hugging him even tighter, as Izuku hugged her back, saying, "You'll never lose me. I don't know why you're so upset. Come on, let's go home," Izuku said. "And by the way, All Might, can I have your autograph?" "Yeah, sure, kid," Izuku handing him a slight piece of paper, as Izuku or All Might actually signed the piece of paper, giving Izuku All Might's autograph. As everything like that went as canon, but Izuku didn't hold on to All Might's leg. As the explosion for the sludge villain, that would still happen like canon, with Izuku rushing in to try and save Bakugo, even though Bakugo's an arrogant little prick, but not still arrogant enough. Basically, he would apologize more or less. I know I stuttered halfway through the video, I do apologize for that. As Izuku actually managed to save Bakugo from this, and actually attaining the power of One for All, a gift from All Might. As Izuku's training began, this is where our story picks back up. 3 months into the actual training, Izuku's body started to get more and more stronger, a lot more fast than what it should do. Izuku's training with All Might increased and increased and increased until Izuku's body was ready to withstand it. Izuku got the One for All on the 4th month instead of the 9th month, unlike the original. Izuku was really confused why his body was growing so abnormally huge all of a sudden, as Izuku would have turned to the Demon Queen and the Demon King to see what was wrong with him, because they know a lot more about what the quirk gene is than the original, of course. As Izuku would have just gone to them and asked them about this, as they would have just done a couple of tests on Izuku, realizing that his body's been around so many demons and the demon world that his body's adjusted, and he might be, as they studied. "Izuku, thanks to you becoming in hell every so often, since you are around about 10 or 12, your body started to adjust to our demon ways, and your body started to mutate. You're becoming a demon, my boy," the father of Yura said, also known as the Demon King. "So let me get this straight, I'm becoming a demon?" "Yes, you are. High ranking or lower? In between?" "Whoa, that's cool," Izuku said, as Izuku just smiled, but he was still confused and conflicted. So Izuku just decided to spend the rest of the time with Eris on the top of the thing without telling her he was turning into a demon. Let's begin where we last left off, or a couple of days before the entrance exam. Izuku was actually training his demon powers to see if he could actually bring it out, but the more he tried, the more he struggled. Izuku tried to whip out like some form of dark electricity, dark flames, so on and so forth, but nothing worked. Izuku tried even harder and harder, but the more he got frustrated, the more his anger built up. As Yura actually tried to come to Izuku and comfort him, with Izuku just getting more and more frustrated every day, it didn't help that Izuku was getting frustrated. With this, he accidentally snapped at her, with her just saying, "Izuku, it's okay, don't worry, you'll get it eventually." Izuku just breathed out and just said, "Okay, I'm sorry for snapping at you, Yuri." Izuku breathed out. A couple of days have passed since then, as Izuku and Yuri was both walking with each other hand in hand to the entrance exam. As they both arrived there, as they both took in the sights of seeing the massive building known as UA High. As Izuku and Yuri both walked into the building, as Izuku and Yuri was both entering the room, as a man with little blondish, spikish hair came up to them and put his hand on his shoulder, telling them, "What the hell you doing here, Deku?" Bakugo said. As Izuku just turned around to him and said, "Well, I'm here the same reason as you, Bakugo. So, what are you touching my shoulder for?" Izuku said, nudging him off. "Don't nudge me off, you damn nerd," as Bakugo started to put some sparks and steam into Izuku's shoulder, replacing his hand back there. As this just infuriated Izuku, as Izuku just punched Bakugo in the stomach, knocking most of the wind out of Bakugo's lungs. Bakugo said, struggling for air. Bakugo said, as Izuku just turned around and said, "Stay out of my way, Bakugo, or this will be much, much worse for you." As Izuku just walked off with Bakugo having his infuriated complex take over his mind. But Bakugo realized he couldn't charge at Izuku, struggling to actually even move even an inch from the impact. As Bakugo started to walking forward and started taking tiny steps from the agonizing pain that he felt in his lower stomach. As Bakugo arrived into the actual main room itself where they were taking the entrance exam, Bakugo tried to actually concentrate, but he couldn't even concentrate from the arriving pain in his stomach. As Bakugo finished the test with 5 minutes left to spare, knowing that he might have done bad, as Bakugo actually walked off that time, going to the actual talk show with President Mike and so on. As we come back to Izuku's point of view, as Izuku was sat there with Yuri on his left, them holding hands like in tandem, it was like they're inseparable, they were thinking in their head. As Izuku and Yuri was both listening to President Mike, as they would have heard a blue-haired boy stand up like Cannon having the normal conversation. Izuku would have tried to intervene, but Ida would have turned around and said to him, "What do you think you're doing here? Get out, you villain," Ida shouted out loud. As Izuku just turned straight to him and said, "You better shut up, you fucking brat," Izuku said, letting out the entire bits of his demon bloodlust accidentally, making most of the room and air pressure tense up and thicken. Everyone struggling to breathe. Even President Mike was having time struggling to breathe. As Yoda actually tugged on Izuku's shirt, telling him to sit back down. As Izuku complied with him relaxing his body as everyone started to breathe normally once again. As Izuku and Yuri both listened to President Mike's rest of his speech, as they went to their respective areas where they were going to train and go finish their exam, which is the physical portion. If you guys are wondering what's happening with Bakugo, he's recovered and he's moving around normally, but he is struggling to breathe, kind of. As Izuku's point of view came back around that shit, as Izuku was sitting there in B department with Yuri, I can't pronounce her name correctly, I do apologize, being in the opposite one to him, which might be A or B, I can't remember which one Izuku's in now, Jesus Christ, it's late. As Izuku and her was actually getting ready on opposite sides of the arena, getting ready to run, as President Mike was going to shout, "Go!" As Izuku spent no time, charged out one for all, and ran straight out. Izuku charged straight at the robots, smashing them as fast as he could, getting and racking up points, but not enough as we would think he would, because he only has 5% control. So he only has around about 20 or 30 points around this time. As the 0-pointer event would have stayed like canon, with Izuku smashing it with 100% of his power, getting around about 50 points, and also Araki will be getting the same points as well, because she saved Izuku from falling into his ass and hitting the ground a full pelt, snapping his neck. Izuku actually got saved by Araka, so Izuku actually managed to sit up on one back leg, laying on his back, panting heavily. Thank you so much, Izuku said, panting. No worries. Who's your name? As Izuku just saw her throw up rainbows. Uraka said, coughing up rainbows. As Izuku tried to get up, but realizing his whole body below was shattered, Izuku felt like he was crippled until Recovery Girl came around. As she healed Izuku, making him pass out from exhaustion from overusable healing of his stamina. As Izuku was took to the infirmary, as he had his little rest time in there with Recovery Girl just sitting there waiting to discharge him. 2 hours later, Yuri arrived, worrying about Izuku where he would be. She saw him in the bed. The other thing that she did was just straight up dive on him. "Izuku, you meanie!" she said, jumping flat onto him with her breast piling into his face. Izuku said, waking up from the pressure hitting his stomach and chest. "Yuri, I can't breathe," Izuku said, struggling to breathe. "Not until you apologize to me, you big meanie, for not telling me you were here," she said, pouting with her cheeks inflating. "I'm sorry," Izuku said, as Izuku just bowed his head in shame. "There we go, that's what I wanted," she said, kissing him on the cheek very carefully. After that, she just blushed the same with Izuku. As the day went on like normal with them going home, having chats here and there, until they got their acceptance letter into UA. Izuku managed to get second place, actually behind Yuri, with using her lightning quirk and everything in the actual exam. Her racking up around about 120 with Izuku getting 110, which Izuku was shocked and annoyed at the same time, knowing that if he didn't stop to save Araka, he would have actually been able to get a little bit more points and got saved Araka at the same time. It annoyed him, but he was happy that his best friend in the whole wide world actually bet him in something. As the next day, Izuku and Yuri actually got ready as they went out their front doors and they met each other halfway to UA's campus buildings. As Izuku and Yuri both walked to their campus, Izuku brought up what class were they going to be in, because Izuku never brought that up to her on vice versa, as they both said in unison class 1A. Izuku was shocked at that, knowing that Yuri actually was in class 1A, but she never realized that Izuku was in as well, which they thought it was weird that they were both in the same class, so they thought it was like fate. Izuku and Yuri actually went to the actual class 1A doors, realizing how it was massive, like canon, but instead of Yuri being there, you know what I mean, bro? As they both walked in through the front doors to see Bakugo and Ida arguing like canon. As Ida would have walked up to Izuku, telling him everything like the original, telling him that he's the better student than A. As Izuku would have just said, "It's fine, man, don't worry about it." As Izuku and Yuri actually went to go sit back down until a brown-haired girl came rushing up to Izuku in a rushing speed. "Hey, I know you. I can never forget that green hair anywhere. You're the boy who saved me," she said. As Izuku retaliated, saying, "You're the girl who threw up rainbows, right?" Izuku said. As Araka just said, Why do people remember me like that?" she said in a very anime-like tone when she's depressed, as jokingly of course. As Araka came out of her corner, as Aizawa just peeked through the door. "Okay, class, everyone get ready. I'm your homeroom teacher, Aizawa. Get these clothes on and get to the goddamn changing room. I'm tired as fuck, so get there now." As everyone grabbed their sports uniform and actually went outside to start their physical exam. As Aizawa just told them everything like canon. "You guys are going to be going through some special training in UA, so I'm going to make sure with this, you guys are up to the test and ready for what's come in the future." Just like canon, Oraka would have raised her hand at this, stating that shouldn't they be going to the welcome ceremony, she said. As, "Yeah, we're meant to be going there now, aren't we?" Mina interjected. As Aizawa just interrupted them both like canon. "If you all want to be heroes, you better listen to me. We do everything different here. so you all better listen and not pay attention to some stupid old traditions. As Aizawa talked them through what they were going to do, as Aizawa threw a ball at Yuri, gesturing her to come to the front, as she complied. As she walked all the way to the front, Aizawa told her to throw the ball at 100% of her power and nothing less. As Yuri said, "You sure, Mr. Aizawa?" She said, "Yes, sure, go ahead." As she let loose and surrounded her body in flame of lightning power, as the only thing they could hear was a loud boom, as the ball was sent flying all the way 1,562 meters. As Aizawa's face was a bit surprised at the kid their age could actually throw a ball that powerful, as Aizawa would have just smirked at that, saying, "Good job, now next events." As every single event would have gone like canon, with Izuku getting insanely better than most of his peers, but still falling behind Ida just a tiny bit. As Yuri's turn came around for the racing against Momo in this counterpart of canon, as Yuri accelerated from Momo, getting first place in 0.2 seconds for her extra demon speed, surprising Aizawa, including Ida's ego being crushed into pieces. As for everything else, Izuku would have got 900 kg on the grip strength because of 5% overall control, of course. I haven't explained that, but I will get to it very soon. As for Yuri, she would have broke the goddamn machine, devil strength. It's a bitch, trust me. As Yuri would have actually managed to get first place, Izuku getting third, and every single person same like canon, but in different areas of the area, basically. Bakugo's point of view, him being pissed, the Pomeranian actually getting very bad to the point he literally charged at Izuku, wondering how he got a quirk like canon. But in this timeline, Bakugo would have been a little bit too fast for Aizawa to react, as Yuri would have saw this first, and she would have instantly knocked Bakugo onto the floor, making his neck crack just a tiny bit. The next crack would have actually killed him, but Yuri made sure to crack it to the point he went unconscious. As Yuri was standing on top of Bakugo's corpse, well, not corpse, but he's unconscious basically. As Yuri stood up from Bakugo's sleeping body, let's just say that. As Aizawa would have asked Yuri if he was alright, Yuri would have replied saying, "Yeah, I've only knocked him unconscious. If I killed him, he would have probably expelled me and probably thrown me in prison," Yuri said. As Aizawa would have just sighed saying, "Oh, for God's sake." As Mr. Aizawa would have dragged Bakugo inside by his feet, dragging him and flinging him onto Recovery Girl's bed. As all the day went as canon that day. I'm just gonna fast forward, I'm getting really lazy at this point. As the next day arrived to the Heroes vs Villain test. As Izuku and everyone was both sitting in their seats, as Yuri walked up to Izuku, having a little conversation with him, with Uraka and everyone else staring at them, thinking of certain areas of expertise of the romantic novels of Seven Dar. If you guys don't know, this is an Italian thing, but you guys might know what it is. As Izuku and her both actually started talking a lot, as most of the students was thinking some certain stuff. Not in that way, you perverts. As Izuku was interrupted by a loud boom at the front door. "I am here in a bizarre position like usual." As All Might said that, everyone was screaming, "Oh my god, it's All Might! It's All Might! All Might! Oh my god, I hate it." As everyone else was just screaming out loud. Izuku and Yuri was both excited to see All Might in his Silver Age costume, but they're not too excited to the point they'll literally scream out loud with seeing All Might for a year, every single day. Make it seem like it was normal, like it was everyday contact. Like, of course they won't have a reaction as most of the students were. As All Might pressed a button on his Mo controller, as All Might pulled out suitcases from the back of the walls, with all having numbers on it because side to their seat numbers. Izuku being 26, Bakugo 4th, everyone else is the same like canons of course. As everyone else was both walking outside to the actual changing rooms. As they were getting changed, they realized Izuku had weird symbols on his back, the ones they didn't have from yesterday. as most of the students were taken by Izuku. Yo, Midoriya bro, what's that on your back? What do you mean, Kirishima? As Kirishima pointed to Izuku's back, seeing that there's weird markings formed on his back from yesterday, but they weren't there yesterday, Kirishima said, confused. As Izuku just looked at it in the mirror. What the hell? Izuku said, as Ida walked over. What's up, Midoriya? What is wrong? As Ida looked at Izuku's back. You got tattoos? That's against school regulations! Him doing the hand chop robot motion. As Izawa would have overheard this, as Izawa would have walked into the boys' changing rooms. What's up, you sprats? Izawa said, looking over at Izuku. Midoriya, when did you get tattoos? I didn't. I don't even know how I got them, Izuku said. I was hanging out with Yuri, then we both went our separate ways. I went to sleep like normal, and I came here, and Kirishima just told me about this. I literally don't know how I got them, Izuku said. Okay then, we'll talk about this later then, Aizawa said, as Izuku and everyone else came out of the changing rooms. Izuku's canon costume would still be here, but a little bit more darker green, I would say, as everyone else came walking out of the changing rooms, with some of the girls overhearing what happened in the boys' changing rooms, as some of the girls actually came up to Midoriya asking them why was they talking about markings on his back for. As Midoriya replied saying, I don't know what you mean by that, Izuku said, trying to nervously laugh it off. But one of the girls actually went up to him and pulled up his hero suit at the back, seeing the symbols have gotten bigger from a couple of minutes ago, them leading up to Izuku's shoulder blades going up to his shoulders. As Ida came back over, seeing that the girls were harassing Midoriya. As Ida looked back over to Izuku's back. Midoriya, the marks have grown again. Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean? As Ida would have shown Izuku with a picture on his phone. Okay, I seriously need to get this checked. As Izuku walked over to Aizawa, showing him his back. Aizawa was shocked, saying, okay, Midoriya, this is starting to creep me out now. Go to the recovery girl's office now, just to see what's wrong with you right now. Midoriya, go, now, Aizawa said, as Izuku ran over to recovery girl's office, having a checkup with Izuku's health and mental health becoming normal. As recovery girl was confused at this, wondering if it was just a quirk. As recovery girl would have done a quirk analysis test, she would have just concluded it to being One For All's vestiges, or One For All acting weird with his body for some reason. She would have told Izuku to go back to the class, with Izuku arriving at the monitor area to see everyone was doing their battles. As Yuri would have walked over to Izuku, handing him a ball. Guess what, Izuku, you're on my team, I drew the ball for you, she said. As Izuku and her would have both said, yes, in unison, and mentally, of course, because they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. The Izuku and her would have both strategized on a plan, until they realized they were going against Todoroki and Ida, as the match would be in progress, as All Might and Aizawa both told Bakugo. What did I say Bakugo for? I meant Ida and Todoroki to go into the building and set everything up. 5 minutes later, once Izuku and Yuri actually planned out their trap, they both walked into the building, as they would have walked all the way around the first floor just to see nothing was there, as this was good and part of her first plan, as Yuri surrounded herself in little black lighting mist, as little bits of shards would have appeared in her hands, as she would have shouted, "Shining Lance!" as a giant lance would have been shoved into the walls of the area, creating little sludges crawling around the building, as this would have located where the bomb was. This making Yuri hold on to Izuku, as she would have told Izuku to hold on. Them being dragged into a little sludge-like creature type of thing. Them being transported to where the sludge is on top. Izuku's first plan was a success, as Izuku ran to the bomb but was stopped by Todoroki, and Ida's reciprocal burst and Todoroki's ice attack, as this would have made Izuku come to a halt, being stopped by the furious force of Todoroki's ice and kick from Ida. As Izuku and everyone who was watching at that very moment were surprised on Ida's and Todoroki's actually working together, with Todoroki being the edgelord goth that he is. People would think he would actually not be good at working together, but they would be wrong, as Todoroki kept on throwing ice at Izuku consistently. Izuku had no choice, however, as Izuku slipped up with his concentration, accidentally using 100% in his pinky finger, breaking it of course, but sending Todoroki and Ida flying back, the same with Yuri out of the window. Izuku had no choice, as Izuku instantly threw himself out the window, catching her, landing on his back, almost breaking it, but breaking the floor underneath him. As Izuku was saying, "Oh, my back," Izuku said, as Yuri came back up from unconsciousness and would have said, "Izuku, you okay?" she said, worrying about him, as she would have just cuddled next to him saying, "Izuku, Izuku," she said. She would have just got a response saying, "Yeah, I'm good, let's get this bomb," Izuku said, as Izuku holded her in a bridal position, making her blush, as Izuku threw his power into his legs at 5%, moving up to 6, to 7, to 8, as Izuku launched into the building, kicking Todoroki square in the face, knocking him out, as Yuri grabbed the bomb, making them win that match. As the day went on as normal, with them picking vice reps, Izuku being the first one, and Momo being the second one, like canon. Sorry if this felt rushed, I'm trying to go back to the detailed stuff about the demons, so this is the only way I can get to it in time. As Aizawa would have told all of their students the next day after that to get themselves prepared for the next day for the USJ. As this is where we're going to cut to the villain side of this story, as we cut to Shigaraki's and All For One's discussion about how the high-end Nomu should look like and be. "Sir, I think the Nomu should be more All Might ready." "I know, Shigaraki, but we need to prepare the Nomus, because you know how the demon clans are and how they act. We need to get them prepared for that type of day, to make them strong enough so they can't defeat us. And once I have this done, I'll become the new Demon King," with All For One clutching his hand in his fist, as All For One let out loads of amounts of bloodlust, making everyone in that room shit themselves with fear. As Shigaraki would have just said, "Master, but how are we gonna do this though? We don't have access to demon DNA." "Actually, we do, young Shigaraki. We got it from a young girl named Yura. She's the Demon Queen's daughter and the Demon King's daughter as well. If we can get more from her, we can easily overthrow the Demon King." As Shigaraki would have just replied saying, "But the Demon King's 50 million times stronger than her. How the hell are we going to get one goddamn sample from her when her skin is impenetrable?" Shigaraki said, "Well, Shigaraki, nothing's impenetrable. We'll find a way." Well, since they're fight with All Might, I actually managed to get a little bit of samples of her blood. And I've realized enough pressure can actually make her bleed. So, we just have to apply more pressure with the Nomu. With the Nomu having little bits of demon DNA inside of him, we should be able to, per se, kill the daughter and make the Demon King come to us. We want this so the Demon King can just strike a deal with us. If we can trick him to think his daughter's still alive, we can sort of get our way," All For One said, with a grimacing grin, or grin you would like to say, that would look deformed, as most of that went on like all normal standards for villains, discussing how we're going to get the Demon King's blood into the Nomus. As we cut back to the next day with Izuku Midoriya's point of view in mind, as Izuku and everyone else would have actually walked to school that day, as most of everyone was actually arriving late and early at the same time, as all the students would have discussed where they would be going for their field trip. Maybe it'd be Universal Studios Japan. That'd be cool. As most of the students would have said, no, they won't be taking us to something that exquisite. They would have probably taking us to a battle training facility, Bakugo said, growling in anger. As everyone else would have just agreed on that, but they could be wrong. As most of them had this thought at the back of their heads, feel like something was going to happen that would be wrong today. As everyone would have gone to surround the tables and sat down before Aizawa came in. Aizawa slung open the doors and told all of his students to hurry up and get changed. They'll be going to the USJ. Hell yeah, we're going to the Universal Studios Japan, Kirishima said. No, we're not. We're going to the battle training facility known as the USJ. As Bakugo stood up saying, Ha! Got you extras! You owe me money! Bakugo said, shouting, as everyone else went to go get changed. As for Izuku's hero costume, it would have slight upgrades with his season 2 outfit now, because of his extra braces in his legs, so he can use one for all, a little bit more proficient when he launches from his knees. As Izuku started to launch a little tiny bit to jump into the air to see how the new knee pads were. They fit like gloves and they felt like them as well. Izuku was actually jumping up and down in his set, so this set an area basically, trying to get himself warmed up and nice and stretched. As Aizawa told everyone to hop onto the bus in single line, as either would have copied and reciprocated what Aizawa was doing. As everyone went onto the bus in single line, them being greeted with seats that are in canon, they sit normally, with Yuri sitting beside of Izuku and not Sue. As this is where we're going to leave our video today. Ha! JK, keep on going, my guy. As their bus ride to the USJ would have reciprocated like canon, with Izuku having chat with his fellow classmates like Sue, Kirishima, and everyone else, talking about how Izuku's quirk resembles All Might. So let's begin where we last left off, of Izuku and Yuri both talking with the students on the bus. All their conversations would have gone like canon until they arrived at the USJ. Aizawa told all the students to actually get ready and get themselves prepared, as most of the students walked into the building to see another hero standing there, this being 13. Uraka would have fangirled like canon and would have said the exact same things, how she would have gone to space and been the first hero actually to be on the actual space station. As Uraka would have just said she wants to strive herself just like 13 would have done. As everyone else would have done the same things like canon, with Kirishima pointing down to the actual stairs, seeing a portal open like canon. This is where we differ from our story, as most of the students saw people with wings and horns coming out of the portal, them seeing a big behemoth with a man had hands on his face, and a guy who was covered in mist with a metal plate around him like a suit. As all the students would have just said, cool, we're fighting fake villains, Kirishima said, as most of the students would have just looked back at him saying, are you on crack? Most of the students were thinking, as Aizawa would have just shouted at him saying, no, these are not fake villains, everyone get back now, Aizawa said, pushing most of the students back who were near him with his scarf. As every single student would have just tried to actually listen to Aizawa, telling them all to get out of there, with Izuku just saying to Aizawa that his fighting style doesn't suit multiple people at once, but Aizawa would have just given the thumbs up, telling him to join his fellow classmates and get the hell out of here. As Aizawa would have just jumped down like canon, getting rid of most of the people that was actually fighting him at that very moment. As everyone else tried to run for the door, but everything else would have gone like the original, with everyone being teleported around the areas. As Izuku, Yuro, and Sue would have been transported to the same place like canon. as Izuku would have just tried to set up a plan like canon and tried to actually get everyone out of there safely. But Sue's jumping would have not actually worked in this timeline because of a villain actually destroying most of the boats that Izuku, Yuri, and Sue were standing on, so Sue's jumping was out of the question. If they moved even the slightest bit, the boat would have just tipped over with the villains actually getting the advantage to pounce at them. Oh gosh, as Izuku and everyone else would have just made up a plan to try and get everyone out there safely, Yuro actually planning to make up a plan with actually using her wings to try and use the propellers and everything. As Izuku would have just said this: "Okay, I've got an idea. Yuro, grab Sue and get ready to fly when I say go," Izuku said. As Izuku would have gone to the ready position and got to the same area on the boat like canon. But this is where our story differs from like canon. The moment Izuku screamed, the boat shoved and moved. As Izuku said, 3, 2, 1, jump it now, go, go, go! As Yuro actually grabbed Sue, spreading her wings as far out as possible to carry 2 people. As Yuro actually jumped it as well, reaching to the end as far as she could, propping off Sue. As the moment she rushed back, she saw Izuku jumping off the end, placing his middle finger in between his hand like a bullet, shooting it out, but the moment he shot it out, Izuku didn't realize it, however, but Yuri did. Izuku's demonic energy that he got from living in hell for so often with Yuri. Izuku leaked that out a little bit too much, creating enough wind pressure to destroy an entire block. But instead of a block, it destroyed the entire water area zone. This getting the eye of Shigaraki and Kurogiri, then being knocked off guard for Aizawa to actually take down Kurogiri, restraining him and cancelling out his quirk with his eraser quirk. As Shigaraki saw Kurogiri getting detained, as Shigaraki just jumped at Aizawa with the most speed he could, trying to catch Aizawa off guard, but this didn't happen even one bit, as Aizawa used the other end of his scarf to throw Shigaraki a little bits away from him. But okay, let's go back to Izuku's point of view for now, as Izuku was just into the air being catched by Yui. As Yui saw Izuku's broken finger, she was a little bit upset, but she knew his quirk did this to him, so she decided to actually just settle him down where Sue was. As Sue took Izuku and Yuri both to the front entrance of the USJ. As Izuku saw and looked back at Aizawa being pummeled into the ground like cannon, but a little bit worse thanks to the actual Nomu having more powerful quirk like cannon. Izuku saw this and was about to run in before Yuri stopped him. "Izuku, stop please, that is underestimating its power. Stop Izuku, please," she said. Izuku just said, "What do you mean?" "Well, if you look very carefully at the monster, he's actually putting up some demon energy. So it looks like the people who made that little creature type of thing has injected or made demon DNA into its system. Izuku, if you get hit by that, you'll die," Yuri said in a very worried tone for him. "But I can't let Aizawa die like that. That's not what heroes do." "Izuku, please, don't," she said. As she managed to actually get in under Izuku's skin. In this timeline, Izuku wouldn't have actually run in. Instead, he would have actually gone back with Yuri, all the way up to the top, as Aizawa's head was being pummeled into the ground. Just Shigaraki would have noticed the little kids running to the actual stairway to get out, as Shigaraki would have just shouted, "Nomu, kill the little brat!" Shigaraki said, as the Nomu moved its body, as it chased after Izuku at Mach 10 speed, reaching the front of Izuku's vision. Seeing the Nomu about to grab Izuku's face and about to slam into the ground, a big boom was heard, seeing All Might standing there not smiling. With unlike Cannon, All Might wouldn't have said anything, and just rushed down into the middle, grabbing Izuku, Aizawa, Yuri and Sue. rushing all the way back up to the top of the actual stairs and punching the Nomu and knocking its arm right off its body. But before All Might could even throw another punch, the Nomu hit All Might square in the face, knocking him back 10 feet. "Wow, you must be a strong one," All Might said, as All Might didn't know, but even paid attention neither. The Nomu's arm instantly regenerated with steam coming off of it, as All Might just charged back at the Nomu, thinking its arm is still not there. As All Might threw a mighty blow at 100% at the Nomu's head, knocking the Nomu back a little bit, but also making the Nomu flinch on response, punching All Might square in the side of his weak spot, making All Might fly back as well 10 feet also. "What the hell? I thought that arm was decapitated off his body. Well, I better go beyond," All Might said, coughing up blood, as All Might started to rush in once more, throwing more and more mighty blows at the Nomu. "United States Area, smash!" All Might said, throwing his 100% beyond smash at the Nomu. This barely just even scratching the Nomu. "All Might's having some trouble," Shigaraki said, rocking back and forth in his spot like a psychopath. As All Might didn't give up, however, as All Might threw more and more mighty blows at the Nomu, doing barely anything like cannon, but All Might still didn't give up on his shot to actually try and kill the Nomu. As All Might hit more and more and more and more, doing barely any damage to the Nomu, thanks to his demon side of his actual quirk. As All Might got really tired around this time thanks to his injury, starting to leak a lot more blood than the original. As All Might started to bleed in and out of consciousness. "No, I'm not gonna give up here," All Might said, shaking his head. "One more blow and I'm done, so I have to make this count." As All Might looked to try and figure out what the Nomu weak spot could be. As All Might saw an exposed area of the Nomu's head. As All Might ran to the area using 100%. As All Might grabbed the Nomu by the head and started to twist and turn it, but doing barely anything. As All Might said, "Fuck it, plus ultra!" All Might said in a knifing position, shoving his arm straight through the Nomu's head, impaling it, and making the Nomu fall out unconscious and dead onto the floor, bleeding out. As All Might just sat there panting, as All Might started to fade, like with more smoke around his body. As we cut back to Izuku's point of view, almost reaching to the outside of the USJ. "Come on, we're almost there, Izuku." As Izuku looked back once more to see All Might about to be attacked and about to be deflated. But Izuku just kept on following Yuri and kept on following her until they reached the exit. As they saw the rest of the heroes actually trying to form up, as they saw Midnight, Blood King, Nezu, Eraser, not Eraser, he's dead on the floor, and anyone else. As all the teachers and everyone came rushing down like cannon, as Kurogiri and Shigaraki escaped. As we are going to do the around about 2 weeks after the events of the USJ, as All Might called Izuku into the hospital. As Izuku entered it almost instantly, seeing that All Might was still in the hospital and no one has heard of him for 2 weeks except from really close friends. And Izuku hasn't heard from him either as 2 weeks, even though he's the successor of All Might. As Izuku would have just picked up the phone and had tried to get into All Might's conversation, but All Might instantly cut him off by saying, "Young Midoriya, One for All is slowly fading from my body, and I need you to train harder and harder to try and succeed me. But since you've only got 10% control at this very moment, it's going to be a little bit harder, but I do apologize if this seems like a burden for you. I'll try to my best, try and save as many flames of One for All I have left in my body, to try and make sure I defeat All for One, cause for that Nomu attack, there's no way in hell All for One isn't dead. All for One is still alive and kicking. I know that for a fact. Once I've defeated All For One, I will retire, All Might said. As Izuku sat there about to cry, but All Might would just comforted him, saying that everything would be okay. And don't worry about actually trying to impress other heroes or anything. I know you can do it, Izuku. Go beyond, plus ultra, All Might said. So let's do a little time skip to the actual sports festival. As we begin, hours before, Izuku was sitting there in the actual house of Izuku Midoriya. As Izuku heard his bell ring, as Izuku walked over to his actual door to answer it to see Yui standing there. Hi Yuri, what's up? Izuku said. Nothing much. You ready for the sports festival, Izuku? Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly just finish getting ready and now on my way, Izuku said. As Izuku finished off putting on his shoes, as Izuku shouted in, Mom, I'm gonna go now. See you in a bit, Izuku said. As Izuku ran downstairs, as Yuri tapped him on his shoulder. Hey Izuku, how much if you jumped from this height, would you be able to keep your legs intact? Yuri said. Probably, yeah, why? How about we jump down here to save time? Ah, fuck it, Izuku said, as Izuku charged up 8% one for all, and actually jumped down the flight of stairs. Or just a flight. The moment Izuku hit the ground, he made a tiny crater into the ground, but it wasn't too noticeable by people who were passing by. As Izuku and Yuri both headed out to the actual the actual sports festival buildings. Don't ask me what they're called, I do not know myself. As Izuku and Yuri both arrived at those places to be greeted with some teachers known as Aizawa and President Mike leading all the students to the actual changing room where they got ready for the actual battles to become of them. As Izuku and Yuri both arrived in their separate changing rooms as they got ready in their actual uniform. Everything like that would have gone like canon, with actually Bakugo going up in this version of events, the same like canon. As Bakugo would have done his speech but pointed out that he's going to be #1 and that he's going to crush all of these insects in his way. As this just made Bakugo more of a target and Class 1A more of a target in the actual battles. As for everything, events was gone like the same. The actual race would have began as Yuri would have took the actual first area, sped through with her wings, getting almost first place. But Izuku would have actually tried to keep up with her, with the both of them actually tying in this version of events, with Izuku not getting first only place, which both of them would have actually tied for it. So the 1 million points would have split between them. So they would have got 500k each, with everyone else getting second, third place and fourth. Bakugo, Todoroki, and Tenya Ida like canon, and everyone else is the same. As for the actual battle training with the groups, I see Yuri actually going for Izuku's team because they're very close since they've been childhood friends for quite a while. As for Izuku else's team, I would say Uraka and probably Mei, because she's at that attention-seeking area at the moment. As I would say the battle training, everyone would have had the same teams like canon, but Tokoyami would be still on Todoroki's team. So they'll still have that major defense increase. As Izuku would actually try and go for Todoroki's headband, with Todoroki just trying to freeze Izuku so he can get his 150 headband from Izuku and the other 150 from the actual, well, you know what I mean. It's 500,000 each, I'm saying that for convenience. As Izuku and Yu both dodged Todoroki's ice, with Izuku throwing around about a 10% smash at Todoroki, knocking his ice back, almost accidentally knocking him off as well. As Izuku and Yuri both actually managed to grab Todoroki's headband, with them getting around about another 5,000 points to their original 1 million, where this leads Izuku's team to actually be a lot higher into the rankings of the actual sports festival. As Bakugo would actually try to grab their headband, but Bakugo would have just been slapped away by the actual hair pressure of Izuku's arm being slashed around into the wind. Izuku slashed and slashed to try and get everyone away from him, but one of them was really bold and very reckless at their actions. This being Monoma from Class 1B, trying to actually move in to get the actual headband from Izuku. with Monoma only getting around about 10 points, even from Araka's head, with Araka only being able to actually move out the way slightly. But Monoma still got the headband nonetheless. As for who would have won that event, I would say Izuku's team would have just scraped by, with Izuku still keeping his headband, same with Yuri. So Izuku's team would have got first place, Bakugo's second, and so on and so forth. As Izuku's team would have gone on to the finals, same with everyone else's. As Izuku's placements would have gone the same like canon. As for Yuri, she'll be placing actually Tokoyami's actual spaces in the actual events. So any events that Tokoyami was in, Yuri's taking his place instead. As who would have won the first round with Izuku versus Shinso, that would have gone like canon, but Izuku wouldn't have actually tried to speak until he brought up Yuri. So that would be Izuku's downfall on that one, but he still won nonetheless. As for the next rounds with Izuku fighting, as Izuku would have fought Todoroki like canon, with them actually tying in strength. Izuku would have tried to flow more and more mighty smashes by using most percentages he could use of one for all that very moment. Izuku used 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Still nothing towards Todoroki's ice barrages. Izuku would have tried to avoid it, but he had no choice, as Izuku used 100% without thinking about it, creating more and more wind pressure around him. As Izuku was about to use his last finger on his right arm, as some form of black fire starts around Izuku's right arm. "What the?" Izuku said, as Izuku was wondering what this black flame was surrounding his arm. Izuku took his finger up and just said, "What the hell is that? Oh shit," Izuku said, flinging his finger, not knowing what the consequences would be. The moment Izuku flinged his finger, giant amounts, and I mean giant amounts, of wind pressure surrounded the arena, cracking and breaking it. Cementos had no choice but to use his full power at this very moment, surrounding it like a dome, creating enough dense concrete to keep all the wind pressure inside. They couldn't think about anything else but the actual civilians that are surrounding the actual main area. So Cementos actually managed to keep them safe, but inside the arena, it's a different story. Shoto's point of view. "What the fuck was that?" Shoto said, trying to get up from the ground, noticing his legs were bloodied, beaten, and bruised, twisting the wrong way. Shoto tried to stand up, but the only thing he could feel was bones cracking underneath him. As Shoto looked over to see Izuku covered in a black substance, half of his body to be precise. As Shoto tried to crawl over to Izuku, wondering if he was alright, as he saw Izuku with a horn on the right side of his head, and markings that were leading all the way down to his stomach, that looked like, if anyone's seen Jujutsu Kaisen, like, it's kind of like those, but with a horn and shit. As Izuku would have tried to say something, but only came out in demon. Izuku said, but the moment Izuku said that, Yuri heard this. Seeing Izuku, or even feeling their intense aura from him, she instantly ran down and instantly pierced through Cementos's barrier that he set up. The moment Yuri actually penetrated through the barrier, she could see Izuku with the black lines on the horn. Just remember, Jujutsu Kaisen lines, horn on the top. As Yuri would have tried to run over to Izuku, but was stopped by the intense pressure. But the only thing she could do at that very moment was shout his name. "Izuku! What are you doing?" she said. "Stop!" she said, shouting at him loudly, getting the attention of Izuku Midoriya. As Izuku was about to charge at her, but he was stopped by his own will, fighting back against his demonic side. "Get away from her, you bastard," Izuku said internally. As Izuku fought back against his demonic strength, managed to actually regain most of his consciousness. Izuku said, passing out. "Izuku, Izuku," she said, running over to him. as she put his head on her lap. Izuku, please wake up. Izuku, she said, really worrying. As the moment she said that for her second time, Cementos decreased the barriers around the students. As she saw something she might have regretted putting it down. She saw the number 2 hero's son, Todoroki, unconscious with his legs twisted. She saw Yui and Izuku into the ring, as they instantly brought Recovery Girl's henchman, I would think it's called, or staff, to bring it down almost instantly, as Todoroki was stuck in surgery for his broken legs, because he couldn't have his healed because of his stamina problem. As Izuku was still unconscious even if like an hour later, so they had to disqualify Izuku from the rounds. Same with Todoroki, so this makes a drastic difference in the round picking. So everyone would have won like the original Bakugo, but instead of Todoroki it would have been Ida and then Tokoyami. But Yui decided to qualify herself because of Izuku's sake. The moment she saw Izuku and instantly rushed into the hospital, Yui almost instantly called her parents to come to the mortal realm right goddamn now, she said in a very worried tone. Sweetie, what's up? The husband said, or the dad said. It's Izuku, his demon powers have finally awakened, she said, as her father got up from his seat and ran to get the milk. I'm joking. As he instantly ran to the hospital with his wife, or mother of Yui. The moment they arrived there, they saw Izuku in the state he was in, as Yui's mother decided to actually scan Izuku's DNA by using her magic. Seeing Izuku's multiple activities, Izuku's organs are slowly turning. Izuku's left lung is turning into more of a demon lung. Stomach turning more into a demon stomach to handle the hottest amount of food, or whatever you guys would like to say. Just basically the normal shit of the transformation shit moving slowly on, as Yuri's mom started to slowly stare at Yuri. Yuri, sweetheart, did you recently do like she said, pointing to him. As she started to turn really, really red. No, she said. Yuri's mom said, okay then, just making sure, that's all. If this keeps on going on, Izuku's gonna turn into half demon, then probably full demon, and that's gonna leave one next to another, she said, and he won't be able to come back to the human world anymore. Wait, what do you mean, Mom? Well, you're able to come to this world because you're a little bit of a demon in you, or a little bit of human in you for some reason. As for Izuku, he's slowly turning into one, so why is he turning into one? Do you remember that summer he spent in the demon world? Yeah, yes, that was the bad idea. If Izuku goes back to the demon world once more, he won't be coming back, she said, as Yuri's face dimmed darkness. What do you mean he can't come back? She said, as it means if he goes to the demon world one more time, he won't be coming back ever again, she said, as she looked at one little step at Izuku, saying that. Would I have to say goodbye to him? Oh, hell no. You can stay here as long as you want, you just can't take him back with you, she said. But is Izuku going to be okay? As we do a little bit of a time skip when Izuku awakes. Izuku awakes to see Yui actually holding his leg, hugging him while he was sleeping. As the moment Izuku moved to sit up, he could feel his rib break, or bruise more or less. Izuku said, groaning from the pain. Izuku, she said, hugging him. You worried me, you big meanie, she said, punching his chest very lightly. Ow, that hurts, Yui, stop, Izuku said, as Izuku was greeted with Yui. You're a big meanie, she said, as the moment she said that, she kissed Izuku firmly on the lips. trying to make it more passionate and long-filled as possible. As the moment they spread apart, you could see the saliva trail end, or you could see it drop from where it ends. Yui, what is that for? Izuku said, blushing like a madman. That's for almost hurting yourself, you big meanie bum. And also, I love you, Izu, she said with a big, smiley eyes like an anime cute. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know. Also, one last thing. If you guys can just comment down below your waifu, that'd be highly appreciated. Let's carry on with the story. As we're gonna skip a few days, Izuku and Yuri were both actually still recovering from their injuries, as Endeavor would have tried to actually try and sue them for the past couple of days for injuring his son, but Endeavor would have actually got some negative backlash from this, trying to sue a kid because he injured his son accidentally in a sports festival, this blowing Endeavor's reputation quite hefty. As Endeavor took the backlash, Izuku and Yuri was both cuddling on the couch, where they were sleeping there for quite a hefty while until Izuku heard his doorbell ring to see Shoto Aizawa and Nezu and All Might standing there in front of the door. As Nezu would have walked in asking Izuku what was that power he displayed in the sports festival. Izuku would have stayed quiet and acted dumb. What power do you mean, Nezu? As All Might would have just given him a wink saying, he knows. Oh, thank God I don't have to hide this from him. Oh, it would be a bad one. You one for all? I don't know. It just happened, I guess. You mean how you destroyed most of the arena and almost killed Shoto? Yeah, accident, I guess, Izuku said. Isn't a joking matter, Izuku. I'm not joking. I seriously don't know what that power was. Either one for all acting up, or it's probably just the vestiges trying to tell me something, Izuku said. Wait, the vestiges? What do you mean? Nezu said. Oh God, Izuku, you should have brought this to me as soon as you heard it. What do you mean, All Might? Well, the vestiges inside of one for all get in contact with people, the amount of users there are, yada yada yada. All Might would have given them the rough down of what it is. If you guys had seen the manga, you would have known. As Nezu would have just said, okay then, I get it. So the vestiges are trying to tell you something, that's why one for all went out of control like that. As Izuku and Yuri both sighed the moment they both left. Oh, thank God we didn't have to tell them about the devil stuff, Izuku said. As Izuku and Yuri went back to cuddling, but the next day they had to go back to school. As the moment they arrived, Izuku had stares at his back, feeling that he had did something wrong. But most of them thought he was like a weird type of quirk unlock, I guess. Or he just lost control, most of them were thinking. As Izuku sat down at his desk as Aizawa brought everything to the table. Everyone would have gone to the same internships like Canon, but Izuku and Yuri would have gone somewhere else differently. Izuku and Yuri both got their invitation, but they went somewhere else that was special to them. They went to an agency that was far out of the city, but it was close to it as well. It was basically still in the outskirts. As Izuku would just said, this is a weird place for an agency. Who said it was an agency? Yuri said. As a gate opened to reveal an open building. Is this in hell? Izuku said. No, it isn't, Izuku. As Yuri and Izuku both walked in to reveal that it looked like a giant house of manor type of thing. So let's start into the training. As the person who would like to train them, I was going to name him Zexel for now, just for like the plot convenience. As Izuku was trained to actually try and master his flame-power, basically, Izuku managing to actually get a hold of it, but still losing it in the process. This would have gone on for a couple of weeks, gone into a couple more weeks thanks to the actual extended time they actually had in there. As Izuku would have came out a little bit more buff in tone, but a little bit more understanding on how his flame works, but he still can't use it. Just imagine the Amaterasu, but more of a oddly destructive type of thing. I know the Amaterasu is really powerful. I don't need you guys to roast me in the comment section. As Izuku went out that day, going back to UA High School. So in this kind of event, Ida's dead. Let's just commit Sonic go yeet. I'm gonna get comments on that. Oh Jesus Christ. As Izuku and Yuri went back to see most of the students sad and crying. As most of the students, Izuku walked over to the actual desk asking what was wrong. As Kirishima said, Ida's dead. Kirishima said, stuttering. Wait, Ida's dead? Izuku said. Well, how'd he die? The hero killer Stain. The hero killer caught him off guard and stabbed him through his head, killing him almost instantly, Kirishima said sadly and started to cry once more. As Izuku had one tear down his face, but that only came from one other tear duct. The other one was being occupied with one of his demon eyes that he got from being in the demon realm for too long. As Izuku and Yuri went to go sit down with Aizawa just saying, everything will be okay now. You know why? As All Might started to bust down the door. I am here, All Might said, seeing the rest of the students not excited as usual. Don't be down, turn that frown upside down, All Might said, trying to be confident. But this would have just gone back in his face with Kirishima and one other student, this being Momoya Hirozu, just standing up. I know I'm speaking out of turn, All Might, but that's not funny. They both said in unison. We just lost our classmate. This is a really bad joke, All Might. As All Might just said, well, what the hell? I didn't think this would be a bad response. What the hell happened? All Might said, not being informed. As Aizawa pulled him aside, saying, oh, shit, sorry, All Might said, bowing his head, trying to be apologetic as possible. As most students actually forgave All Might for his transaction, but most of them still stared at him with lustful intent of killing him for saying that. As for the actual where they actually chased down All Might, everything would have gone similar to canon, with Seru actually winning, but Izuku would actually been in second place in this timeline instead of getting dead last. As Ida would have actually not been here in this timeline, so Ashido would be last in this timeline. Thank you. And like that, he is so sorry, All Might said. It's fine, All Might, I'm over it now. So, what are we doing now then? So, since your friend has passed, we're going to be doing battle trainings instead of our original plan. Battle trainings? Yeah. Basically, you're going to be put in pairs, and you're basically going to fight either robots or heroes. So, do we have a choice in the matter? Izuku said. I do not know yet, Nezu hasn't said, so please keep this on the down low, Izuku, All Might said, as everyone just started to go back into their classes and have their normal classes like canon, as everyone went into their dinner rooms or dinner or lunch hall, whatever you want to call it, as Izuku and everyone would have sat down at their table and had the same conversations like canon, as Yuri would have come to sit over on Izuku's lap saying, "Hey Izuku," she said. She just sat on his lap and just started nuzzling into his chest. "Oh, hi Yuri," Izuku said, as Izuku just patted her on the head. "Yo, Midoriya bro, what are you doing with Yuri there?" "Oh, for God's sake, I sound odd," Mineta said, as Izuku would just look to Mineta with a death glare, thinking what he might say. "Are you two dating? Ooh, it's hot," Mineta said, as Izuku just let out little bits of his bloodlust from his demon blood towards Mineta, making him collapse, as Izuku would have tried to get Yuri off him so they can actually see if Mineta's dead or not, as Yuri didn't let him get up as she just snuggled even more. "I'm not letting you move," she said. She just snuggled even more, basically going limp, hard to move her. As Izuku said, fuck it, I'll just leave you here," Izuku said, as Izuku and Yuri both stayed there until the bell rang, signaling all of them to get up and move it. "I like to move it." As Izuku and everyone would have arrived at the class in their hero suits. "Hell yeah, we're fighting robots," Minya said, shouting out loud. Actually, we're not fighting robots. Wait, what? We're fighting heroes, the actual number one. As All Might would have came rushing down. I am here, All Might said. As all the students would have actually been surprised at this, seeing All Might. Wait, we're fighting heroes? They said. Yes, my pupils, we are. You're fighting us. As All Might would have pointed to the people who they were fighting. Wait, so we're not fighting you, we're just fighting them? Oh no, you are fighting me. It's just gonna be this few that's gonna fight me. Do I know that's got a slight chance if I hold back? All Might said with a cheeky grin. Okay, let's get one of their teams. As for complicity's sake, everything's gonna be like canon. But I would say you guys put it to a poll, and Uraka's been giggity gone. So let's just continue with that. As everyone would have actually continued their things like canon, with 13 being taken down way easier than in canon. As for Izuku's team, Bakugo and Izuku, this is where their timeline changes, with Izuku actually being way stronger than his counterpart. Is at a 5%, he's around about 40%. So he's gonna have a really good time fighting All Might, let's just say that. As Izuku and Bakugo would have tried to actually get a plan, but Bakugo, just being the arrogant twat he is like canon, would have just ignored Izuku and just carried on walking. I am gonna beat All Might myself, not without your shitty help, Deku! Bakugo said, shouting at Izuku. As before Izuku could get another word out, the other thing they heard was SMASH! As a loud gust of air would have gone past Izuku's head and Bakugo's, knocking Bakugo off, but Izuku stood his ground firm and strong. As, looks like one of you didn't get knocked over. We'll fix that very shortly, All Might said, rushing over to Izuku, smacking him in the stomach. Izuku said, trying to hold back All Might's mighty blow. You think that's enough, old man? Izuku said, punching All Might accidentally in his weak spot, sending All Might flying back. Lucky shot, kid, All Might said, rushing back over to Izuku. As Izuku would have tried to dodge the rest of All Might's attacks, as Bakugo got up and threw an explosion at All Might with his gauntlet. Die! Bakugo shouted. As Bakugo's explosion would have connected and actually done no damage to All Might's durability body. The more and more explosions Bakugo threw, the more and more explosions All Might tanked and took like a true tank, or champion you like to call it. As All Might blocked every single one of Bakugo's explosions, with Bakugo getting even more and more pissed than canon, as Bakugo threw one more mighty one, making All Might deranged, not being able to see them. As Izuku grabbed Bakugo and hopped out of there. Bakugo, our only best bet is to run, Izuku said. Fuck that, I'm not running from him. You can run all you want, Deku, but I'm not leaving. God, you're so ignorant, Izuku said. What'd you say to me, nerd? You heard me. You're ignorant. You bullied me all those years? No one did anything. I tried to stand up for myself. You told me to kill myself. Imagine if the teachers knew about that. What would they think about you then, Bakugo? Izuku said. You wouldn't dare, Deku! Oh, I dare? Oh, I will. Either listen to me and we win, or this little secret of ours will become public, Izuku said. Bakugo said, as Izuku would have discouraged a plan like canon, making all the range of power go to Izuku. Okay, this is what we're gonna do, as we cut back to All Might's point of view. Where are you? Come out now, All Might said in a very creepy tone. Over here, old man. Izuku said, firing his gauntlet at All Might. As the moment this connected, Bakugo came out and threw another one at All Might. There we go, run! Izuku said, as they both ran to the gate, almost getting there before All Might knew Ham should smash Izuku into the back. making Izuku almost paralyzed. But Izuku stood back up and stood his ground. "Bakugo, get out of here now," Izuku said, shouting at him. "Screw you, I'm fighting." "Get out of here now," Izuku said with scowling mouth to face at him. As Izuku just charged at All Might full strength, charging more and more punches at Izuku and All Might as more and more shockwaves surrounded the area as the bell rang, telling them that the hero team won. As for everything else would have gone like canon after that, Izuku and Bakugo hospitalized. As for the training arc, I'm just going to do a little bits of arc skipping here because I'm trying to make this as long as possible. As for their meeting with Koda and the trip there, everyone would have failed like canon, who would have failed. As for Izuku and Koda's meetup, Izuku would have tried to make more of an effort, but so would Yuri, with Koda just staring at Yuri confused with the markings on her face. "Excuse me, miss, but why is those markings on your face for?" Koda said, confused. "Well, it's a secret," Yuri said, with a very innocent tone. "Oh, that's not nice," he said, punching Izuku in the balls. "This time, it doing nothing. I've got balls of steel." As for Izuku's training, he would be training with Yuri, focusing mainly on durability and building strength. Izuku's fighting style would be completely different, with Izuku not being more brawler, Izuku being more martial arts based. As Izuku would be fighting with Yuri for all this time, but Izuku making barely any dents in her thanks to her demon side healing her almost instantly. As Izuku would have tried to fight her even more until they were out of breath. "What a good fight," Izuku said. As Izuku coughed for a good measure to try and regain his breath, but still, it was still out of breath nonetheless. As Izuku and Yuri both went back to camp, as everyone else would have had their dinner, interactions, everything would have stayed the same. This is where we're going to do a little bit of time skipping here, as Izuku would have actually gone through the actual Forest of Courage, as everything would have gone the same, with Izuku meeting with Muscular, but this is where we change our story. With One For All, how strong he was in the original canon, with Izuku only being able to use 5% to 8% power boost, or probably 9 at a push, Izuku would have had barely any problems with defeating Muscular, but he would still have some problems thanks to Muscular's increased muscle mass. But if you guys actually have seen the manga, Izuku has shown to use barely any percentages of One For All thanks to it growing in size the more and longer the person keeps it, and how stronger the actual person becomes. So in this timeline, Izuku would actually be a way stronger thanks to that little boost he would have got before the original canon counterparts. So I do see Izuku defeating Muscular, but he doesn't come out unscathed, but like little scratches and bruises, but not broken limbs. As for the person who would have got kidnapped, well, you know it's Bakugo, the goddamn terrorist. Can we all get Bakugo terrorism in the chat, please? Yeah, you guys who are watching on the premiere, please. God, that sounds bad, doesn't it? As Bakugo would have screamed, saying, "God damn it, you nerd, help me!" Bakugo shouted, but still, Izuku tried to rush over as fast as he could, not making it in time, with Izuku blaming it on himself. The moment Izuku was hospitalized, Inko came rushing in. I was confused with my goddess series just then. As Inko would have just came into the room. "Oh, Izuku, my baby boy. No. Don't worry, Mom, I'm fine. It's only a couple scratches and probably a broken rib, but I'm fine," Izuku said. "We're pulling you out that school." "No, you're not. It's fine, Mom. I took care of myself perfectly fine. You can even ask Yuri." "Yes, Miss Midoriya, he did perfectly fine. I was with him as well, so it makes double power and strength," she said, flexing her arm like a bodybuilder. As Izuku and Yuri both walked home with Inko, with them just sitting down. As the dorms would be introduced earlier than originals thanks to Bakugo's disappearance and the USJ attack, plus a bunch of other stuff as well that would be happening. As Yuri's family, for example, would put more investable money into UA thanks to her being there, so they would actually have a lot more sponsors than canon. so their buildings would actually be built a lot earlier by Cementos. As Izuku and Yuri both settled into their dorms, as Kirishima would have brought up the tactical retreat, saying that they could go save Bakugo. As Izuku would have told them that would be a stupid idea to get in and stop meddling with the actual heroes' job. As Kirishima would just said, "You've been friends with Bakugo since you were childhood friends. Why wouldn't you want to save Bakugo, Midoriya?" "Well, let me just think," as Yuri interrupted him. "Bakugo bullied him and treated him like trash for all his life. Why the hell do you think he wouldn't want to save him, huh?" she said, like the normal teenage drama. As Kirishima would said, "Wait, Bakugo wouldn't do that? He's my bro." "Yeah, to your eyes. Behind closed doors, he's a mean, ignorant little bastard who has the ego size of a fucking asteroid coming to Earth," she said. "No, he wouldn't do that. Take it from us, we've known him a lot longer than what you have. And trust me, he's an arrogant little prick. But he has the fighting spirit of a hero, but he is arrogant. He won't be a hero with that personality," Yuri said, as Izuku would have just nodded lightly, saying that would actually be true. "So, let's all just get to bed and wait for the heroes just to sort to this, and we'll wait until the morning." As the All For One fight, mental. This would have changed drastically than canon, thanks to Izuku, Kirishima, and no one actually going there, because Kirishima would actually be confused in this timeline, thanks to Yuri's actual explanation of Bakugo's personality. So let's cut to All Might and the All For One fight and see how this is actually going. As All Might would have actually tried to throw multiple mighty blows, only at 50% scared of hurting young Bakugo, as Endeavor would actually intervene in this, same with Best Jeanist and everyone else. Endeavor would actually be smacked away like yesterday's news, so let's just do haha yeet, as the Endeavor would have been flinged into a wall, as Mirako came in with her axe kick to All For One's head. "Take this, spinning Kafun!" As she would have span and kicked All For One in the head, barely doing any damage but denting his head in the process, as this gave All Might enough momentum to throw off one of his mighty blows to All For One. "United States Smash!" All Might shouted, as All Might started to slowly debuff. "What the hell? That didn't kill you?" All Might said, as All For One said, "Puny humans. Do you think that would actually kill me?" All For One said, rising up in a red blackish aura. As cut to the Demon King. "I smell something. The human world is acting up. We need to go now," he said, as he opened a portal and walked through. As we cut back to All Might and All For One's fighting point of view, as All For One would have raised up his arm and threw a giant blast of air, being stronger than what it usually would be, as All Might would have been knocked off his feet and flung into a wall, with All Might only bearing to just buff up one more time, being bashed into a wall and being caught by Best Jeanist after he fell. As All Might would have just saw this, saying, "What the hell? He's never been this strong even in his prime. What the hell?" All Might said, holding his broken arm. As the moment All Might heard this, a black British portal with purple in tint came opening in the middle of the battlefield, as stepped out the one and only Demon King Lucifer. As he stepped out of the portal, being greeted by a bald-headed man with scars on his face, as looks like he's been through World War II. As, "You must be that off one I've heard about. I've heard about you in the demon world, stealing other people's demonic power to add to your own. Despicable," Lucifer said, holding his wrist. "Yes, so what if I have? You're no match for me, Demon King," All For One said, staring at the man. "So, let's see that happen then," the Demon King said, as All For One charged at him with full power. As the Lucifer just snapped his fingers, as All For One just imploded everywhere. on the walls, floors, and everything. If you guys have seen the manga or episodes of the series I'm recommending, you guys will know where this is from. As Lucifer regenerated Dolph 1 and did it again and again and again, scarring everyone who was watching the TV at that moment. What the hell was that? Endeavor said, as Lucifer's final snap killed Dolph 1 right then and there, killing the quirk off, but they didn't know it was still there though. Poggers! God, as All Might would have just threw and sort of a smash at Lucifer, with Lucifer just blocking it, sending All Might just on his head. Pure Toshi. Poor Toshi. What's wrong with you, eh? Lost Dolph 1 for all yet? Seems like you have. Looks like my son-in-law will be really fine on his own, eh? As the day would have skipped over that with that little name being skipped through the media, with religious cults getting a kick out of this, thinking the devil's actually real. What? PogChamp? As the things that would have shown on TV would actually start of a cult of some form of kind, but I can't say word cult, can I? YouTube fuck me over for it. YouTube, it's not a cult, YouTube. Fuck off, YouTube. As Izuku and Yuri would have been hanging around that very day. What was last night about? Why did your dad actually come on the TV? Izuku said. Well, this seems like he told me. I don't know yet. He hasn't fully told me the reasons why he appeared. I'm guessing it's because of the surge and sense of demon energy that was flowing through the air at that moment. Maybe that must be the reason why he actually came here, she said, as Izuku and Yuri would have been just sitting there waiting for the next day to come. As the next day would have arrived, as everyone would have had their same days like canon. Everything would have stayed the same with all their fights. Everything stayed like canon. With the internship corrects, that bit would change. Izuku would still go with Naitai, but Yuri would tag along as well, making a little duo. As Naitai would have no problems with actually finding reasons to prove Midoriya not worthy of One for All, thanks to his near enough strength that he showed in the sports festival, almost destroying the entire place in the process of that, as everyone else would have had their same interactions, internships, everything. As for the Yuri actual arc, this bit changes quite a hefty bit, man. As Yuri would have actually bumped into Izuku, but this timeline she would have bumped into Yuri, as she would have, Overhaul would have actually just told her to give back his daughter. But Yuri, mama instincts would kick in at this very moment. It's your daughter, eh? What's her name? She said. As he said, it's Eri, of course. Why won't I know that? Why is she bandaged up? She has fell quite a hefty amount. I do apologize if she's actually a nuisance. You must die for hurting this child, she said, as she pulled out a dagger from her back, stabbing it into Chisaki's gut. As Chisaki forcibly regenerated, but this didn't have enough time, as Izuku, what serious punch, hitting multiple smashes at Chisaki at 5%, making Chisaki's body implode. I'm going there, man, no one hurts our little ray of sunshine, and gets away with it, as everyone would have gone to their same places and gone home, with Eri just clinging to Yuri with her dear life. Don't worry, I won't hurt you, Izuku said very calm, and as Izuku would have just reached over just to help her, as she just grabbed his hand, as Izuku would have felt something warm in his heart, as it was. What is this feeling? Izuku said, as Izuku would have just said, is this my father instincts kicking in? Izuku said, as Izuku would have just said, kind of sus. Boop, 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 boop. Sorry for the rape. As Izuku and everyone else would have gone home and saw that Izuku was just sitting there waiting for someone special to come home. Thank you all for watching this video and this series so far. If you guys would actually like me to continue this series into season 5, please just wait until the series is ended and you guys will get the next part of this as soon as possible. Thank you all for watching this video, and make sure to join our Discord server, link below, and goodbye mortals. And goodbye guys.